The bosses outside are saying it's time to take your seats and get started again here, so we'll give you just a few minutes and then we'll get going. So, Sindhu, is there anything you want me to say especially about you? Or no? Nothing? So I could just kind of have my
Yes.
Okay.
I feel good introducing you.
Do you want to hand out any door prizes?
Oh, I don't have any. Sorry.
Just door prizes. Is it time to get rolling now? Time to get in your seats. Sit down, Michael. Jen, sit down. Quit talking. Kenny Rogers, sit down. Yes, I do. I need 7 hands to go up. No. Yeah, 6 hands to go up real quick. There's one. There's one. Okay, we are into our next presentation now, and the next panel is going to be an update of the Northwest Water Area Supply Project, which will bring Missouri River water here to Minot, then throughout the north central part of the state. Joining us today from the Department of Water Resources is Sindhu and Travis. Now, I've known Sindhu for quite a while. She was a project manager for Southwest Water Pipeline for a long time, and she was there when I started on that board. Sindhu is now the Water Development Division Director with the Department of Water Resources. In her current role, she oversees the state-owned projects, including Southwest Pipeline Project, NAWS, Devil's Lake Outlet, Investigation Section, Design and Construction Section, and the Red River Engineer. Travis is a new employee of the department. He recently joined the North Dakota Department of Water Resources to become the NAWS Project Manager. After a 22-year career with Houston Engineering, in his first year at Houston Engineering, he began working on the Northwest Area Water Supply Project and worked extensively on NAS for many years. So with that, who's first? Travis?
All right, you'll have to bear with me. I'm not a public speaker, but I play one on TV. My name's Travis Johnson. I just joined the Department of Water Resources here about a month and a half ago, but to be the project manager for the NAS project. And prior to that, as he stated, I worked with Houston Engineering for 22 years. About the first half of that, I worked almost exclusively on NAS, and I was literally there when the first piece of pipe went in the ground back in 2002. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the NAS system. It is one of two state-owned regional water systems in North Dakota, along with the Southwest Pipeline Project. As I said, construction began back in 2002, but the initial reports for this project, the feasibility and such, go back to 1988, and there has been quite a bit of work on this project since then. But right after construction, very shortly after construction in 2002, the project ended up in litigation and remained in litigation for 17 years. Much of that time, we were able to continue constructing pipeline project, towards Minot, because the litigation was with regards to the source of the water, so it didn't initially affect the distribution of that water that Minot was currently producing. But the whole project was designed to serve a project area of about 81,000 people, including the city of Minot and various outlying communities and connected rural water systems. As stated, NAS is owned by the State Water Commission and administered by the Department of Water Resources. Local cost share for NAS is provided by the city of Minot with a 1% sales tax at a 35% rate, with the other 65% being paid for by the state. The exception to this is the Biota Water Treatment Facility in Max, which is a federal responsibility due to the biota question that is the result of the litigation and the reason for that litigation. The city of Minot and State Water Commission is working to finalize and update the financing agreement, or they have finalized the updated financing agreement, and currently working on wording for the operation of the biota facility. As you can see, the NAS authority is made up of members who are within the NAS system, consisting of 4 members from the city of Minot, and then several others from connected systems and affected parties in that network, and as you can see on the list there. Now, currently, the NAS pipeline is largely complete. You can see the completed portions in green here on this map, showing the pipeline from the lake all the way up to Minot and through, and then to the connected cities and rural water systems. We have current ongoing projects at the Snake Creek pumping plant for the intake. We have intake contract 1 and 2 that are ongoing for both the demolition and procurement and construction of the intake structure, along with the last leg of the pipeline from the intake to the system to bring water to Minot. We have to tie into where the project left off down there by Totten Trail. We also currently have the Biota Water Treatment Plant Phase 1 construction that is ongoing as we speak, and just wrapping up on the South Prairie Storage Reservoir here. It shows that it is completed. It's essentially completed. It's substantially complete, and right now we're just finalizing some of that. We also are wrapping up the water treatment plant improvements Phase 2 in the city of Minot, along with the Souris Reservoir and Pump Station, the Botno Reservoir and Pump Station. Upcoming projects are the permanent intake for the intake pumping station down at Snake Creek, the next phase of water treatment plant work at the Biota facility, the Phase 3 improvements at the Minot Water Treatment Plant that will be coming up, and then also additional inline booster pump stations on the Mulhall Run and the Souris River Pump Station and reservoir there. So with that, I think I can hand it off to Cindy, who can give you an update on the status of the existing work.
Thanks, Travis. So this map shows the overall project area for the NAS project. So I'll be using this map for providing the current construction contracts update and the recently completed projects. Just for your reference, on the lower left is the Lake Sakakawea on this map, and then covers the regions covered by the NOS project. So the first project that I'll be covering is the Snake Creek pumping plant intake modifications. So we'll be going from south to north in my presentation. So the first is the Snake Creek pumping plant intake modifications. So the NOS project's intake pumps are going to be located within the Snake Creek pumping plant. As most of you are aware, the Snake Creek pumping plant is used for pumping the water from Lake Sakakawea to Lake Audubon. So for the NOS project, one of the existing 8,000 horsepower pumps for the Snake Creek pumping plant is going to be removed, and it's going to be replaced by 4,000 horsepower pumps for the NOS project. Since the in-state construction for the NOS project will affect the Lake Sakakawea, which is owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we had to get a Section 408 permit. For permitting purposes, to provide us with ease with the permitting process, we divided this project into Contract 1 and 2. Contract 1 is everything within the pump station building, so 408 was not required, and other projects works that happens outside the pump station and in the lake that needed a Section 408 permit. So for Contract 1, the Corps sent us a letter noting that a letter of permission is not required, and that was received on August of 2022. And for the Contract 2, which required a Section 408 permit, we received a partial construction license in June of 2023. So we basically had to spend more than a year with the Section 408 permit with the Corps. So for Contract 1, right after we received the letter of no permission required, we bid that project, and we received one bid, and that was like 250% more than the engineer's estimate. So because of the uncertain bidding climate that we were in, we had to think creatively, so we divided that project into 3 different projects. Procurement, where the State Water Commission and the Department of Water Resources procured all the equipment separately. Then we divided the contractor to demolition and construction. So the contractor was hired to do the demolition work inside the Snake Creek pumping plant, and a construction contractor to finish the construction work. So those are the construction contracts, the procurement contract and the demolition contract was awarded at the December State Water Commission meeting, and the construction contract was awarded at the February State Water Commission meeting. And then the procurement contract, I think most of you are aware of the delays that we are experiencing with all kinds of equipment these days. So we have a lot of electrical equipment included in that contract, and that ended up having extensive delay. The contract included a completion or delivery date of March of this year, but we are notified by contractor that some of the equipment is not going to show up until March of next year. And then, as I mentioned previously, we are working inside a federal facility, so all the work that needed to be completed by the contractor has to be reviewed and approved by federal agencies, which in this case is the Bureau of Reclamation. Because of the incomplete submittals by the contractor and the review time taken by the federal agencies, there has been delay in the demolition contract as well. The demolition contract had an original completion date of June of last year, but the work is still ongoing. At this point of time, they are around 85% complete, and the current estimate is they will be completing that portion of work in September of this year. Fortunately or unfortunately, we do have the same contractor working who got the contract for the construction contract, so we are able to coordinate both the work, demolition work and construction work simultaneously, so the demolition work is going in hand with the construction project. So the construction contract, as I mentioned previously, it's coordinated with the demolition contract. The original completion date on that contract was July of this year, but the delay in the demolition contract and delay in the delivery of the equipments on the procurement contract, this contract is delayed as well, and we are expecting right now the contract to be completed July of next year. Following that is the Contract 2, which was divided into 2 construction contracts, because Contract 2 is for work that is going on the embankment of the dam and also on the lake. So for us to complete the Section 408 permit, we executed a Section 1156 agreement with the Corps and paid for it so that the review could happen in a timely manner. And as I mentioned, still it took over a year for us to get the permit, and we got the temporary construction license in June of 2023. So we divided that portion into two construction contracts. One is the discharge pipeline. The discharge pipeline is necessary for moving the water from the intake project to the NOS main transmission line that has been already under construction, that has already been constructed. So this discharge pipeline connects the Snake Creek pumping plant to the already constructed raw water line. And that was awarded at the June 2023 State Water Commission meeting. And the construction is ongoing on that one. Again, here we are working on the embankment, so we need some core submittals and approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers. And since it is on the embankment, they needed extensive analysis. And even after design, right before construction, some design changes were made. And we are also using bipartisan infrastructure law funding for this project. So before the contractor could start construction, we had to get concurrence from the federal agencies. So there were multiple delays involved in this project as well. So it included a completion date of January of this year, but currently we are looking at fall of this year for completion of that project. And then the permanent intake, which is the intake structure on the lake, and the intake pipeline that connects the structure on the lake to the Snake Creek pumping plant, that is currently under design, and that will be covered in detail at a later slide. So to recap, for the components necessary for moving water to the Biota water treatment plant or the discharge pipeline that connects the Snake Creek pumping plant to the raw water pipeline, and that current completion date on that one is fall of 2024. And then all the work inside the Snake Creek pumping plant, which includes the procurement contracts, demolition contract, and construction contract, and that is currently estimated at summer of 2025. And then the permanent intake, which is under design, we are anticipated timeline for that completion is 2026, 2027. But we do, under the work which is ongoing on the Snake Creek pumping plant contract, we do have a temporary intake on the face of the Snake Creek pumping plant, so we should be able to move water through that intake, but the permanent intake will provide us with better quality and quantity when it is completed. This one recaps the timeline that I just mentioned between all the slides previously. The blue is what we anticipated or expected, and the orange is where we are at currently. So we are anticipating moving water from the lake to the Biota water treatment plant in summer of 2025. And then I'm going to talk about the Biota water treatment plant. As mentioned previously by Travis, the project is going to be moving water across the continental divide, so the Biota water treatment plant is needed to comply with the boundary water treaty compliance, and so it is a federal responsibility in accordance with the Dakota Water Resources Act. So the federal government is completely responsible for the construction and operations of it. But mRNI program is the only source of funding for the federal government to provide funding for water development projects in North Dakota. So we are using mRNI funding for this project. And so far, we have sufficient mRNI funding available for completing the phase 1 of the Biota water treatment plant. So since this is a federal facility, we are working with the Bureau of Reclamation for funding the construction and the operation and maintenance of it. So we have completed a 3-party memorandum of agreement between Bureau of Reclamation, State Water Commission, and the City of Minot. Bureau of Reclamation and State Water Commission, DWR, has the oversight responsibility of the Biota water treatment plant, but the day-to-day operations of the Biota water treatment plant will be completed by City of Minot. So we are also currently working on a cooperative agreement with Bureau of Reclamation, and that is how they can transfer federal funding for the operation and maintenance of the water treatment plant. So we are working on that. And then we have completed an agreement with both the State Water Commission, City of Minot, and the NOS Authority has approved the Biota water treatment plant operations agreement, but it is in the final stages of execution. The Biota water treatment plant, the water delivery to the Biota water treatment plant, as I mentioned previously, is delayed until summer of 2025. But for startup and commissioning of the Biota water treatment plant, we do need water, and it can take months to get that completed. And we want the Biota water treatment plant to be ready when the lake water becomes available. So we are working with the contractor pursuing a modified startup procedure using water from Sundry Aquifer, So instead of getting water from south into the Byra water treatment plant from the lake, we are bringing water from the north, from the Sundre aquifer, and will complete the partial startup and commissioning of the Byra water treatment plant before July of 2025, so that when the water from the lake becomes available, the startup and commissioning is complete and the Byra water treatment plant is ready to go with the lake water, treating the lake water. So that's the information on the Byra water treatment plant, and from the Byra water treatment plant, the water gets filled, goes into a structure called the South Prairie Hydraulic Control Structure, and then the South Prairie Storage Reservoir. And as Travis mentioned, that those projects are mostly complete. So when you're traveling from south to north towards Minot, after the Byra water treatment plant, first will be the hydraulic control structure, which is right on the Continental Divide, which is basically a concrete box with a pipe going in and pipe going out that is just there to protect the pipeline from any pressure spikes that could happen. And downstream of that is the South Prairie Reservoir and flow control structure, and that's the picture of that in this slide. So the South Prairie Reservoir is like 10.5 million gallon tank. I think anybody who's coming from south to Minot would have seen that facility, and that project is currently substantially complete. So when we are bringing the water from the Sundre aquifer for the partial commissioning, we'll be filling this tank with that water, complete the partial startup and commissioning, and then when the intake becomes available, and when we are in the normal process, the water from the Byra water treatment plant will be filling this tank. The next is the Minot water treatment plant improvements. As Travis mentioned, we are using the Minot water treatment plant for the final treatment of the lake water. So the Minot water treatment plant's current capacity is 18 million gallons per day, and it was built in the 50s and 60s. So the State Water Commission has been working in phases to get that treatment plant upgraded. The phase 1 was completed in 2013, where the filtration units and controls were replaced. And in the 21-23 biennium, phase 2 was awarded by the commission, and the phase 2 replaced the softening basins in the treatment plant and added a new primary treatment building, chemical storage, and feed systems. That project is mostly complete. Just final administrative items remain on that contract before that contract can be closed out. And when it comes to phase 3, the water treatment plant will be expanded from 18 million gallons per day to 27 million gallons per day. So this is the picture of the Minot water treatment plant. I'm not sure whether you are able to see that clearly, but the part of the building which has got the white roof was completed in the phase 2 expansion of the water treatment plant. The next project downstream of the Minot water treatment plant, so now we are into the treated water features, is the Lansford Reservoir and Pump Station. This was being completed in fall of 2022. Here is a picture of the Lansford Reservoir and Pump Station. It is a 4.5 million gallon tank and an operational facility and a pump station capable of 2,500 gallons per minute. This facility became operational in fall of 2022. So once that reservoir and pump station became operational, we were able to add additional customers on the NOS project, which included the City of Botno, Upper Soares Water District, and City of West Hope. So this slide shows a timeline when those customers became online. The next project, which is under construction, is the Botno Reservoir and Pump Station, which is at the way end of the distribution system for the NOS project. And that project includes a 3 million gallon tank and a 1,400 gallons per minute capacity pump station. As you can see in the picture, it is under construction right now. The precast for the pump station is up, and the earthwork for the reservoir is ongoing in this picture, but since then some foundation work has started, and the current completion date for that project is November of 2024. So this covers the current and recently completed projects. Now I will hand it over to Travis. He will cover the future projects.
All right, so for future projects and up in the upcoming biennium and beyond even, because some of these are going to take more than this next biennium to get completed and also to get the funding and everything secured for, even some of the permitting issues are still working through being resolved. We have these following projects that are slated for work in order to get the system up to the original design capacity of 26, 27 MGD. Originally we were looking at 26 MGD, but now we're looking at probably about 27, what we could probably squeeze out of the system. Back during the oil boom, it was somewhat difficult to project what the population of Minot was going to do because of the amount of growth that was happening. So there were ideas floated about going higher than that, but now things seem to have settled down to where the 26, 27 MGD intended capacity is still going to hold. So we'll start at the south end of the project. We've got the Snake Creek pumping plant. The next phase for this is going to be constructing the permanent intake pipe. This is the pipe that actually goes out into the lake, and that's going to require dredging the existing cofferdam that is around the Snake Creek pumping station that was put there when that facility was first constructed. It was obviously designed to hold the lake back so they could get that structure built and operational, and then they removed a portion of that back in the day so they could operate that system, and they only removed as much as they could really reach from the water surface as it was at that time and what they needed to operate the system. Now with our new intake pipe going out across the lake bed, obviously we need that to be able to operate at the lowest elevation possible that we're likely to see on this lake. So we're going significantly lower than where that cofferdam currently is. So much of that material needs to be removed, and that is going to require a significant amount of dredging. And so the design is currently occurring to bring this pipeline out to the lake, which is about 700 feet out from the structure. Right now, the current concept is to have a temporary intake, which is attached to the face of the structure to get the system operating for this first current phase that's under construction for the intake. But the next step is to add a pipe that goes out into the lake for the permanent intake, and then that temporary intake screen will be removed and removed from the structure, and the permanent intake will be attached. The let's see here, where are we at? The expected bidding on that is, we're probably looking at next summer, because right now the intake is under design, and also it's going to depend on when the permits can be secured and what kind of considerations are going to need to be complied with in order to have those permits be approved. But currently, the current intake is under construction and is expected to be completed here within the next year or so that we can start moving water with the temporary intake until that permanent intake pipe comes online. Next up the road, we're also looking at upgrading the biota water treatment plant at max, again, to reach the full design capacity of 27 MGD from where we're currently at. So this phase will become operational, and we'll be using the temporary intake and the pump station at max to deliver the first water from the lake to Minot, hopefully within the next year or so. And so looking at trying to get this place operational by somewhere in 2025, because we've got some delays that have occurred due to procurement and supply chain issues. So there have been some hangups on this project, but everything is still pushing forward. And then once this is running, we will look at upgrading the facility to like I said, the final design capacity. Beyond that, we also have the Minot Phase 3 water treatment plant expansion, which will again add another segment to that water plant up there so that that plant can be increased from its current capacity of 18 mg to the ultimate design capacity of 27 mgd. So that is expected to be completed probably around 2029. So the design for that is pretty much what's going to be happening through this next biennium, because that is going to be a significant design effort involved with that, and then that will be down the road from there for the actual construction. Okay, in addition to that, we also have booster pump stations up the line, and the Souris booster pump station and reservoir that will also be built on the line towards Bottineau. So we have some additional infrastructure that's going to be up the line as well to help distribute the water once we reach the design capacity and to get water delivered to all of the intended customers for the system. Those projects, again, will be ongoing through this next biennium as design continues on the Minot Phase 3 and the biota Phase 2 work. So this project is funded by a combination of local, state, and federal share. As you can see, we've got the breakdown here of the money that's been spent to date, and this is as of May of 2023. So these numbers are about a year old. We will have some updates to be done to this, but currently, because of some of the cost escalations we've seen, some of the supply chain issues, and delays that we've incurred on this. We haven't got, this has always been in flux, and then the numbers are kind of fluid at the moment. But we do have some projections for this next biennium of what's going to be needed for the work that's currently being scoped out. Right now, that's looking at about, let's see, what do we got? We've got about $85 million worth of work to be done in this next biennium coming up. And so, with that, I think that's about what we got. I'll take any questions if you got one. Alan? It is directly south of the town of Souris itself, which is just west of Bottineau. Right, I believe so.
You don't have on there the first phase that not had, this is over in Rugby, which I believe was a well and update of the water treatment plant in Rugby. First thing they ever done is not.
So, as for, you said updates to a water treatment plant in Rugby?
Rugby and a new well south of town.
Okay, I'm trying to think of, that was, yeah, because remember we originally were looking at, if I go way, way back, oh, there we go, there. Yeah, Rugby, that would be down just south of Bottineau, I believe?
No, it's right.
Or no. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I believe that is pretty much standalone. I don't, there's not, it's not connected to the NOS system and. Sure, okay. Okay, yeah.
$10 million that's federal funds. How much is it gonna cost for the second phase of, water treatment plant?
The second phase of Biota is, that, I don't know, probably,
The current estimate for that is approximately $50 million.
yeah, I was gonna say 50 million, similar to what this first phase was.
So the $10 million that was shown on that chart was the estimated mRNI funding available when we reach the ceiling for the whatever that has already been authorized for the $200 million. So that's what is available right now. Anything more, and we are working, I think Andrea is working with the Senator Hoven's office to try to increase that authorization. But right now, that's what we have, so that's what we have put in that sheet. That's correct.
And I also think that the next phase of Biota will probably be beyond this immediate next biennium for the actual construction work itself. So the design work will be occurring before that, and the amount of time that that will take will probably push it out another biennium down the road before we actually look at construction of that next phase on the Biota plant. If I,
Water treatment plant in Rugby also feeds the, rural pipes, rural water system up to the north and east or west of Rugby. And it does tie up not.
I think there may be a small interconnect somewhere up there where customers could hypothetically be served from either direction, but I don't think it's a very large tie-in, if I remember right. Because I remember that way back in the day, and that was kind of at the very extents of both systems where they just basically barely touched.
The diameter of the pipe, so that is 36 inch to 42 inch, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, the main pipe is 36-inch ductile iron, which is 38.3-inch outside diameter. And there's some sections of 30-inch that it could be reduced down just because of hydraulic conditions where the additional head loss is allowable. And we're actually looking at bleeding some of that pressure off, because when we come from the hydraulic control structure into the city of Minot, I think we lose about 800 feet in elevation. So it builds some pressure coming downhill. That's why we have the pressure reducing station that's just a couple miles south of town. And for the 2 miles south of that, the pipe is actually reduced down to 30-inch because we can afford the head loss.
But I think, Bob, your question is on the intake pipe, correct? Yeah, so, yeah, intake.
Yeah, the one that goes out in the water, they're looking at scoping either 42 or 48-inch pipe. because it's going to intake, so it's going to be suction instead of being pumped, so the allowable loss in that line is quite a bit less.
And this one is only 700 feet long, Bob. So if you're interested in that too, so not 2,700 feet, so.
I have a question. What is the life cycle of that ductile iron that was put in 2002?
With proper installation, polywrap, and cathodic protection, the intent was that it would last 100 years. There may be some isolated incidents where there could be failures of that protective system and have some leaks that have to be repaired, but in general, the vast majority of it is intended to last for 100 years, was the original design concept.
So are you concerned at all about microbiologically induced corrosion anytime in the future? On this area?
Yeah, we are keeping an eye on that and looking for potential for that. We have had one section that has had to be removed and replaced so far that we did have a failure on it due to that activity on the pipe, but the piece of pipe that was taken out was largely intact except for one hot spot that was identified on the pipe, so it was a very localized thing. And that's, again, something we're going to have to continue to monitor for and be prepared to deal with if it's discovered again.
Thank you.
All right, yes.
No more questions. Let's give Sindhu and Travis a round. At this time, we are going to be breaking for lunch, and that is going to be just next door to where we met for breakfast. And before we leave here, we will be reconvening at 1:45. And so everybody be back and be in your seats and ready to go this afternoon. A lot of good information, right? So before we go, I would ask that you all bow your heads and we will have our table blessing before we leave. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and this time together as we come together to talk and learn about water, one of your greatest gifts. At this time, we ask for your blessing as we go forth. We ask for the blessing on your food and for the hands that have prepared it. We give you thanks in all things. Amen. So we will see you this afternoon again at 1:45.